Title: My Mom Lived a Double Life. Part 1. The attic door was never locked before. I always thought my mom was just a little quirky. Not in a bad way, just different. She had her routines, her rules, her weird aversion to technology, and this thing with the attic. It was always off limits. When I was a kid, I thought it was where she hid the Christmas presents. When I got older, I assumed it was full of old junk she didn't want to deal with. But now, at 27, I know better. She died 3 weeks ago. I wish I could say it was peaceful. It wasn't. It was sudden, jarring, a hit and run by some drunk idiot who never even slowed down. I got the call at 3:17 a.m. That timestamp is now burned into the back of my eyelids. There's a strange guilt that comes with inheriting the house you grew up in, especially when the person who lived in it felt like a stranger even while they were alive. Mom was a private woman. No photos of her past, no family albums, no old high school yearbooks. The only pictures we had in the house were of me. Birthday parties, school dances, graduation. I always wondered why there weren't any baby photos. I lost them in the move, she'd say, but we'd lived in the same house since I was 5. When I finally came back to the house after her funeral, it felt like walking into a museum that had been carefully curated to erase one person's existence. My mom's. And then there was the attic. The door was locked. For the first time in my life, it was actually locked. I didn't even know there was a key. I found it hidden in the back of her closet inside a hollowed-out Jane Austen novel. The kind of hiding spot you see in spy movies. I stood at the base of the attic stairs with that key in my palm for a full 10 minutes, heart racing. It felt wrong. Like I was about to open something that should have stayed closed. The lock clicked. The door creaked open. Dust poured out like it had been sealed for decades. The air was stale. I climbed the stairs, each step groaning under my weight. When I reached the top, I wasn't prepared for what I saw. There were boxes. Dozens of them. All labeled with dates, some going back to the 80s. And not just random dates. Every box was labeled with a year and the name Evelyn. My mom's name was Margaret. I opened the nearest box, 1993, Evelyn, and pulled out a folder. Inside were newspaper clippings, some legal documents, and photographs. My blood ran cold. They were of my mom. But not quite. Same face, same eyes, same smile. But different hairstyles, different clothes, different towns. In one, she was wearing a nurse's uniform in Nebraska. In another, she was a waitress in Oregon. Another one had her standing in front of a post office in Arizona, holding a child I didn't recognize. There were dozens of kids in these photos. None of them were me. I rifled through more boxes. More photos. More documents. Different names. Evelyn Cooper. Sandra Lee. Mary Ann Teller. Who the hell was my mother? One box was marked with the year I was born, 1996. Inside, I found a birth certificate. It wasn't mine. It belonged to someone named Jordan Smith. Date of birth, April 2, 1996. Mother's name, Evelyn Smith. No father listed. I was born on April 2, 1996. What the actual hell? I kept digging. Under a stack of manila envelopes, I found a leather-bound notebook. Its pages were filled with handwriting, Mom's handwriting, but the content was unlike anything I'd ever expected. It was a journal. I've been Evelyn for 4 years now. This town is nice. Quiet. Nobody asks too many questions. Jordan is settling in well. He's bright, brighter than the others. I hope I don't have to leave again. The others? What others? The kids in the photos? I flipped through more pages. I still dream about 1988. About Aaron. I left him too fast. I never got to say goodbye. Maybe that's for the best. There were entries that read like escape logs. April 14th, I saw someone from Montana today. I don't think they recognized me, but I packed just in case. If I have to go, I'll head east. Change the name again. It was like my mom had been running her whole life. Changing identities. Cities. Families. And then I found the last entry. Jordan is asking more questions. He found the envelope from Kansas. I told him it was junk mail. He didn't believe me. I think it's time. That was dated 3 days before she died. The envelope from Kansas. I remembered it. I'd found it in a drawer when I was 15. It had no return address, just a wax seal. She snatched it out of my hands before I could open it. And I forgot about it, until now. I ran downstairs and tore apart her desk. Nothing. Then the dresser. Nothing. I even ripped open her mattress. Found it. Inside the mattress lining was the same envelope. Still sealed. I hesitated. Then I opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper with a sentence typed in block letters. You promised 10 years. That's it. No signature. No explanation. No context. I sat there for hours, trying to make sense of it all. My mom wasn't my mom. Or, she was, but also someone else. Or several someone else's. And apparently, someone was keeping track of her. Someone who expected something from her. I don't know what to do. Do I go to the police? What would I even say? That my dead mom lived a dozen lives and kept kids who weren't hers? And if I'm not really Jordan Smith, then who the hell am I? I'm scared to keep digging. But I'm more scared not to. Part 2, The Stranger Who Knew My Name. The night after I opened the envelope, I didn't sleep. I sat at the kitchen table drinking instant coffee and staring at that slip of paper like it was some kind of riddle. You promised 10 years. What the hell did that mean? I thought maybe it was from a stalker. Or a lover. Or someone she'd wronged, someone dangerous. And if that was the case, what did it mean for me? Around 6:15 a.m., the doorbell rang. I jolted. Who the hell rings doorbells that early? I peeked through the curtain, a man in his 60s, tall, lean, wearing a navy blue windbreaker and holding a leather satchel. He didn't look threatening, but I still grabbed the baseball bat from the umbrella stand. Just in case. Can I help you? I said, only cracking the door. He didn't flinch at the bat. You're Jordan, he said. Not a question. A statement. Who's asking? My name is Alan. I knew your mother. Or, one of her names, anyway. That bat felt a whole lot heavier all of a sudden. Look, I don't know who you think she was. He raised a hand. I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to give you answers. He looked tired. Not dangerous. Just, tired. I stepped back and let him in. He looked around like the house was familiar to him, and that creeped me out more than a little. You said you knew my mom? He sat down slowly, as if the weight of whatever he was about to say physically burdened him. He reached into the satchel and pulled out a photo. I recognized it immediately, one of the ones from the attic. It was my mom, holding a baby. Only now I knew that baby wasn't me. I took this, he said. Who is she? Really? He sighed. Her name was Evelyn when I met her. 1985, she was working at a diner in Arizona. I was a postal inspector then, tracking a string of insurance fraud cases that kept leading back to one name, Margaret Holloway. She had died in 1981. But that's my mom's name. It was one of many. The woman you knew reinvented herself more times than I can count. And every time, she vanished, left behind lives, families, sometimes children. She was smart, methodical, and scared. Scared of what? He hesitated. People who don't forget. People she used to work for. I stared at him. What are you talking about? Alan rubbed his temples. Do you know where you were born? I opened my mouth to say, yes, but hesitated. No, I finally admitted. I guess. I don't. He nodded like he expected that answer. Then he handed me a document from his satchel. A birth record. Different name. Different city. And under, Mother, Evelyn A. Kane. What is this? I asked. It's the original. Before she changed your name. Before she disappeared again. My heart pounded in my ears. Why? Because she was trying to keep you safe. You were the only one she kept. That sent a chill down my spine. What happened to the others? He looked down. Some were returned. Some were abandoned. One or two weren't as lucky. That nausea again. Rising, sharp. Why are you telling me this now? Because I made a promise, Alan said. She came to me 10 years ago. Said she needed 10 years to raise you properly. She asked me to stay away. To make sure no one else came looking. Looking for what? He leaned forward. Not what. Who? Evelyn wasn't just a runaway. She used to work for people. Powerful people. Governments. Agencies that don't have names. She knew things. Took things. And then disappeared. You're saying my mom was a spy? I'm saying she knew too much. And she tried to outrun her past. She tried to give you a normal life. I laughed. Bitter. Well, that failed. He pulled something else out of the bag, a small device, like a pager. This hasn't pinged in 10 years, he said. Until last week. What is it? A tracker. Not for her. For you. My stomach dropped. She knew the time was running out. That when the 10 years ended, they'd come looking again. That's why she was getting ready to move again. I remembered the journal. She wrote about leaving. Again. Alan nodded. And now that she's gone, you're not protected. I blinked. Why me? I don't know anything. I'm no one. You're her last thread, he said. And that makes you a target. He reached into the bag one more time and handed me a key. To what? Locker 207. At the downtown train station. She left it for you. I was told to give it to you if she didn't make it to 10 years. 10. Damn. Years. The letter. The envelope. The way she acted the last few months. It all clicked. She knew this day was coming. Why didn't she just tell me? She thought you'd be safer in the dark. I stared at the key in my palm, heart racing again. What's in the locker? Alan stood. I don't know. I didn't look. I figured you should be the one to open it. He paused. But if you're going to go, go soon. I sat in silence long after he left. I still don't know if he was telling the truth. Maybe he was just some conspiracy nut who happened to know things I didn't. But the key felt real. The birth certificate felt real. And the fear in my chest? That felt the most real of all. Tomorrow, I'm going to the train station. If I don't update this, I guess you'll know why. Title: My Mom Lived a Double Life, Part 3. I don't know how to begin this final part without feeling like the ground is shifting beneath me. If you've read Part 1 and Part 2, you know the basics. I discovered that my mom had been living a secret life for years, one that included a second family, a man I never knew existed, and a daughter she never told me about. But what I'm about to share in this last part changes the meaning of everything I thought I understood. And I'm not sure if I've truly processed it all yet. Let's rewind to where I left off. My half-sister, Sarah, was standing in front of me, looking like a version of my mom frozen in her 20s. I had invited her for coffee, and we ended up sitting in my car, talking for what felt like hours. She told me her side of the story, how she grew up thinking our mom was just Aunt May, a family friend who visited on holidays or sometimes weekends. My mom had told Sarah's father that she wasn't ready to be a full-time parent again after me, but she still wanted to be involved. He agreed, thinking it was a temporary arrangement. It wasn't. According to Sarah, things were okay when she was little. My mom sent gifts, came to birthdays, even took her on trips once in a while. But as Sarah got older, she began to notice the gaps. The secrets. The unanswered questions. She told me she suspected something was off by the time she was 12. Why does Aunt May never stay overnight? Why doesn't she ever take me to her house? Her dad finally told her the truth when she turned 16. I asked her how she felt about it all. Her answer surprised me. She said, angry. But not shocked. Aunt May always felt like a guest. Not a mom. That wrecked me. We talked about our childhoods, about our different versions of the same woman. Mine was the one who packed my lunches, helped with homework, stayed up all night when I was sick. Hers was the one who popped in and out, a shadow of what could have been. And yet, Sarah wasn't bitter. She was calm. Almost eerily at peace with it. But I wasn't. Not even close. I needed to know more. I needed to talk to the one person who could make sense of this. And that meant confronting my mom. I called her that evening. She picked up on the second ring. "Hi, sweetheart," she said, voice cheery, like nothing had happened. "Hey," I replied, trying not to sound cold. "Can we meet? Tomorrow?" She hesitated. "Is everything okay?" "No. Not really." Silence. Then, "All right. Come over after work." I don't know what I expected when I walked into her kitchen the next day. Maybe guilt. Maybe tears. Maybe excuses. But my mom sat there, sipping tea like it was any other Thursday, waiting for me to speak first. "I met Sarah," I said. Her hand trembled just a little as she set down her cup. "I figured you would." "You figured I would?" I repeated. "So you knew this would come out eventually?" She sighed. "Of course I did. I just hoped I'd have more time." "Time for what?" She launched into her version of events. It was similar to what Sarah had told me, but messier. More human. She admitted to meeting Sarah's father after a rough patch with my dad. Said she didn't mean for it to become anything serious. But it did. She found herself pregnant. Panicked. She wasn't ready to raise another child full-time, but she couldn't bring herself to walk away entirely. So she compromised. She split her life. "I thought I was doing the right thing," she said. "I thought I could manage both." "You lied," I said. "To Dad. To me. To her." Tears welled in her eyes, but I didn't feel moved. I felt numb. "I didn't want to lose either of you," she whispered. "You already did." She didn't argue. The days that followed were a blur. I found myself replaying old memories, trying to spot cracks I had missed. The late work nights. The business trips. The weekends when I stayed with Grandma. It was all there. All the clues I never questioned. My dad, to his credit, was more forgiving than I expected. I told him everything, and his face crumpled like he'd been punched in the gut. But after a long silence, he said, "Your mom always had secrets. I just didn't think they were this big." He asked to meet Sarah. Said he wanted to know the girl who shared my blood. That meeting was awkward, but not disastrous. Sarah was polite, respectful. Dad was quiet, but kind. I think part of him saw her as the echo of a life he could have lived. One he never signed up for. Here's where things get complicated. I thought the story ended there. That I had uncovered all there was to know. I was wrong. About a week later, Sarah messaged me, "I think there's something you should see." She sent me a PDF. A scanned document. Birth records. Hospital logs. I opened it, expecting more proof of our shared mother. But what I saw made my blood run cold. There was another name. Another sibling. Born 2 years before me. Same mother. Different father. I stared at the screen, jaw slack. I'd never heard of this person. My mom had never mentioned them. Sarah didn't know much either, only that the name had come up during some recent research into family archives. A name erased from history. A child who vanished? I called my mom immediately. She didn't answer. I called again. Still nothing. I drove to her house. She wasn't home. The car was gone. Lights off. I waited for hours. Nothing. It's been 4 days now. Still no word. Her phone goes straight to voicemail. I called her job, they said she took an emergency leave. No forwarding address. She's gone. So here I am. Staring at my reflection in a laptop screen, trying to figure out how I went from a normal childhood to this, 2 secret siblings, 1 vanishing mother, and a life full of questions with no answers. I don't know what to do next. Maybe I'll hire a private investigator. Maybe I'll start knocking on doors. Maybe I'll give up and try to move on. But I do know this, nothing about my life will ever feel the same again. And every time I look in the mirror, I wonder how much of her is hiding in me too. Thanks for reading.